Greetings everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm going to talk about some things that let's just start doing. Instead of saying I'm going to, let's just start doing it. So there are two thoughts that we're going to begin with. Within the next 24 hours, it appears as though our world population will be clicking. The odometer will click over 8 billion people. You can see here we're at 7,999,767 and change and rising. We have, if we talk in terms of a net growth per day, looks like we're probably 48 hours out. Okay, if we look down here at 134,000 population growth, the actual population growth per day, because that factors in the amount of births as well as the amount of, let's say, the amount of entrances and the amount of exits. So we got a net number there. So let's start with that. We're coming up with this. This may be some topical topic of discussion in some circles. But the other part that I want to bring in association with this is something that we talked about. I talked about in an earlier video a few weeks ago, came to mind. And that had to do talking about the global wealth pyramid. The level of financial inequality around the world, he says, is staggering, and 47.8% of global household wealth is in the hands of just 1.2% of the world's population, or 62.5 million people. Now, we are just on the verge of 8 billion, and 62.5 million are essentially in control of $221 trillion in, let's say, in value. Because here's the other thing. That's kind of where we're going to go with that, because we can have the general way of looking at this is it's them versus us, so to speak. And I don't see it that way. I see it from a standpoint of behavior, and more so, maybe even before that, thinking. Because we're looking at this wealth pyramid, we're looking at the numbers in terms of the population. And they're looking at this 62.5 million, basically it's just anyone with over $1 million. Okay, so that's not a lot when you really get down to it. But even up to 100,000, you add the 1.2, and that's one. That's 13% of the entire world's population are looking at just 100,000 and up. That's fascinating. So take that information and then put it into the current state of the crypto space. Current state of the crypto space right now is one of great turmoil. Prices are, let's say, confidence is low, and prices are even lower. They've just been down and down and down. I remember a few months ago, Crypto.com's, their Crow token was pushing 91 cents, and it was really, you had a really nice feeling about that, because it looked like things are starting to take off there. And then I just saw something a little while ago, and the token is under 9 cents. And we've always, anyone that's been not just following but loving and benefiting from DRIP, it's in a low state right now. But none of this is unusual, because that's what's happening everywhere with this FTX situation and bankruptcy. Not to mention, I just saw someone had another video, you're looking at these videos, titles, and they're all looking for, many of them. If I can find one here, I will. I had one here lined up. Anyway, the bottom line is there's question about Crow. There we go. Crow is under attack. Now, crypto.com, red alert, okay? The money is here. There are a whole bunch of videos on the status of and the situation around the FTX situation. But where does that leave you and me? Where does it leave people? And this, I'm looking at, what the heck am I looking at right now? Ah, nebulous. Oh, here we go. Let's get back to this. What do? Question of wallets, question of where do you put your funds? I got an email just, I think today or yesterday, from ZenGo. ZenGo is a crypto wallet company. And I've got a ZenGo wallet. You may have recall, I was saying this is something you get into the space and you get wallets, you see how they work, you get a number of them, you find the ones that make sense for you, and you get into how they work. I used to love the name of this one here, the Exodus wallet. Okay, this one has been around. It's a very popular wallet. These wallets are referred to as non-custodial. What that means is that a centralized authority is not in control of them. A custodial wallet basically means, well, you got your funds, well, someone else has your funds. They're yours with an asterisk on it. They're yours unless and until they're not yours, such as with an FTX situation where the fiduciary, the one that you have trusted to manage, to protect the availability of the funds that you put in it, as long as they do that, it's all is good. But once they take, not necessarily in the sense that it's inevitable, but if they do steps that betray that trust, as FTX has done in that regard, then those funds, because they have them, that's where the 9.5 tenths of it's not the law, it's just the facts, that they are in their possession and they are under their control, whether they're yours or not. So there's a relationship between you and the exchange that when you ask for what is yours, they'll send it to you, and that is as long as they haven't done something that stands in the way of them following through with that, okay? And that's all at issue right now. That's all coming up. I was going to show a video that I watched a little while ago of Kevin O'Leary talking about this situation, and he's talking about how things need to be fixed and changed, and maybe, just maybe, I will still do that. So what I'd have to do is, since I'm not doing this live, I can cut right to it.
And the reason you should be optimistic for this is, why?
I'm going to back up here. He says a few things, and we're going to see to what extent you can hear this well. But again, I'm not doing this live, so let's just go with this.
You think about mass adoption, there's three things that have to happen in, let's say, the next 24 months. The wallet has to work. And basically, the wallets, whether you're decentralized or centralized, for lack of a better word, are shit. And they're not safe, they're hard to use, the average person doesn't know what they're doing. The passphrase technology, everybody gets screwed the first time. You always start with $250 and lose it immediately, you get it ripped off. It's always good.
First of all, when does this guy started anything with $250, and how does he know what anyone else is doing and always is doing? What is happening even with him is that he's moving, and you'll see and listen that he's moving toward a certain conclusion that he wants, and people that I'll say of his ilk want people to come to. They want people to come to the point of asking for some type of security. So the crypto wallets need to be fixed, so to speak, according to him. And Web3 is supposed to be part of that solution. Let me continue with him.
Good to learn that, but that just isn't going to work. So we're going to have to. Web3 is about solving that problem. Number two, we need security. You got to have much better security as you amass assets, even if it's just stable coins. But if you're starting to build a portfolio in today's world and you're putting some portion of your savings to work, I don't care whether you use Schwab or Fidelity or Interactive Brokers, you're not worried about security. They've solved that problem. They've built.
I beg to differ there too. Again, so here's the point of the wallets don't work, so don't have any confidence in those. Then from a security standpoint, it basically still is saying that the Goldman Sachs and the JP Morgans and whomever with their wealth management divisions and stuff like that, they have the security worked out. They have done that work and the trust, and they are trustworthy. So again, I'm going to differ, but that's his opinion. He's not giving his opinion. I mean, my opinion, okay. My opinion is he's giving the narrative that he wants people, that someone wants people to see, given these dominoes that appear to be falling. That's been orchestrated too. This is all orchestration, and I'll say masterful, but orchestration nonetheless. Let's see the other thing, because he's getting to his conclusion.
That trust, they've done it over decades, and you're happy to hold your assets.
He's happy for them to hold his assets. You got to speak for himself. If I were to walk in, or the general member of the population walk in, they don't have the time for them. You know, in terms of the overall population, getting back to that now almost 8 billion people on the planet, it's my understanding that the entire banking system, we're talking worldwide, and that can all be checked, but the worldwide banking system provides services for only about 6% of the entire world population, when of course 1.2% are their bread and butter, and plus another 5% of the stragglers. Okay, but they're handled. That 1.2% is dealing with $221 trillion. So that's not a difficult thing to do, okay? But the 98.6% or 8% or whatever the heck it is, it's another story. So let me let the guy finish.
We got to solve that in Web3. You got to feel that there is security to where your assets are being held.
Yes,
and lastly,
I agree with that.
Just as important, the other two, we need regulation. There's no way we're...
Now, that was, he said, to support the other two. Or let us say the other two are to support it. The need for regulation. This is all a way. This is a storm, essentially, to get people to be receptive to and consider the inevitability of regulation. And I'm not saying this, well, I guess I am saying this. I'm saying it, but I'm saying it's being orchestrated to move in that direction, because regulation is going to have major strings. And regulation, as it has been practiced, first of all, regulation has not protected anyone from crap happening. Crap has happened in the fiat space, in the stock space, as well as in the crypto space without regulation. But having regulation hasn't protected anyone from these other things. Banks themselves, banking institutions, they're highly regulated, but they are moving toward insolvency themselves. And the other point of this, is that no one is regulating the regulators. There needs to be a circle of responsibility and accountability. And we are a society that has basically allowed a very small number of people to run roughshod over a large percentage of them. And they've done it in various ways, but the point is it's been done. And so this in part is why that great disparity exists, in the sense that money, that $221 trillion, the creators of that $221 trillion is not that 1.2% of the population. The creators of that $221 trillion are the 99%, or you can say all of it. You know, the 1.2 are creating too, but 98% of the population is also creating. That 221 trillion in terms of value is the output of the human population in terms of exchanging value from one to the other. Now, what really distinguishes one group from the other is not their class, so to speak. It's not their status, and it certainly isn't having gone to some school of quote-unquote higher education. It's on a fundamental basis, it's one where people, or these folks, have established what I call a circuit of return of value. Not only have they established one for themselves, they in many ways have established some siphoning points from yours and mine. We're talking your government people. You're talking all the different agencies that are asking you and me and whomever else for money, and they're not giving you any value in return. I'll give you an example. You have so many. I remember as a kid growing up, and I hear these pleas. You remember Jerry's Kids, for example? I'd never heard of this thing called muscular dystrophy, but it was the MDA and the Muscular Dystrophy Society and stuff like that. And yeah, kids were having this condition, and our society has geared up. Well, they did this song and dance. Every year they'd do these fundraisers, and they'd raise millions of dollars, and the news was how many millions they raised. Now, there wasn't any news about the eradication of that condition. There wasn't any news about truly understanding the causes and reasons for them. There was simply, they congratulate themselves for raising the funds for it, and next year they're coming back to raise some more because they know it's still going to be there. The problem is still going to be there, and the people who give are not asking for accountability in terms of progress, in terms of results. If you're paying for and you're putting something out for a problem, what does the problem do? It continues to grow. It continues to fester, and it continues to spread. And so when that is occurring, something is wrong, but the people who are doing the research, they're considered what unquote scientists, and those scientists are doing something that we apparently cannot fathom, we can't understand. We don't have the capacity or the intelligence to actually appreciate what they're doing or understand what their thinking is or their methods or even have a say in what it is. Just simply continue sending the funds. That's a problem, okay, first of all, but that's only an example. We have it in government. We have it where, again, we have these bottomless pits where you are obligated or considered to be obligated to be paying something out, but what are you getting in return? Do you consider that you are being represented by the people who are say they want to represent you? And excuse me, whether it is, people talk about whether a Democrat or a Republican, or sometimes I just heard today, in fact, I think when they're talking about this regulation of the crypto space, oh, that's bipartisan. That is bipartisan. So the two sides are all for this regulation. So it's all getting to this place in this thinking of this is the direction, this is the narrative they want you to have. But ultimately, where is the representation? Who are they protecting? Because what they are looking to do is basically to have a place, have a position or a way to account for anything that you earn, and they have a way to have their fingers in, or their fist, as the case may be, in the till, so to speak, so they can draw something out at their leisure. The thing about it is all of this is associated with pulling value from the true value creators, which are the people themselves. The money, when it is in the form of what's called money, it doesn't really have any value except that people have thought it or somehow connected to what that amounts are. The thing about this is that because we have not practiced accountability and demanded accountability, expected that truth, we haven't done those things. Someone is basically calling themselves an authority, and they are literally, or an expert, or whatever you want to say, and they are literally making that decision, so to speak, by fiat, I would say, and then by them decreeing it over and over again, the rest of the people are supposed to fall in line without ever having input from the people who would be most impacted by those decisions. So that's being the one thing, and that is one of the things I want to say about all this stuff, is that we have practiced allowing those holes to exist and not expecting and therefore not receiving reciprocity. When you give out of the kindness of your heart to anyone, there is a reciprocity that is in order. Some type of reciprocity is in order. One is that the problem, whatever it is, you need to see the progress toward it ending, and you also, there's a certain level of objectivity and neutrality. Even we'll say there should be some independent corroboration of the nature of the problem, independent of the people themselves or any possible agendas by the people who are pronouncing and promoting and pushing the idea that said problem exists. We're living in a society today where none of those checks and balances apply. None of the reciprocity applies. It's all about who is got in a coalition, who's got an advantage over this other group. We've had, over the last 2 years, we have had a Congress that has had the nerve to choose to only talk to some of the other congressional members because they perceive themselves to have a majority in their particular group, that they don't respect the wishes of the one that isn't in that majority. You talk about the tyranny of the majority, right in front of our eyes. Does anyone notice this? Does anyone say anything about it? Do you feel represented? Do you look forward to each day as a result of how things are simply happening right in front of your face? Well, if you're not, you ought to, in my opinion. And it's not so much that it can't happen, yet when you listen to the things that these folks are providing, well, this is one thing, that's what's happening. That's what they're doing. But the point is, what do you do? So over these, I'm at 26 minutes. I watched the time. But here goes. I have been talking over the last few months now about this thing called co-op crowd. And I didn't start off right off one talking about it. I did a whole bunch of thinking about it before I started talking about it. And then the more I started thinking about it, the more I saw that it was something different. It is not only different, but it's something that actually can be a way to cause and bring about a shift in the way things are and the way we interact. And this is because we're creatures of habit. I was going to do, and I did, I wanted to create some kind of visuals that would be helpful in something like that to help illustrate this. And this is not a worked out presentation, but the idea of what goes around comes around, first of all, comes to mind and came to mind, because as I started seeing about what goes around comes around, it became real evident to me that, first of all, if you put out negative, you're going to get negative. You're going to get it back. And see, it's like I look at this and it seems just a static image, but this would be a better way of looking at it. You start seeing what goes around comes around. If we are here, and let us see if I can, what can I do here real in terms of a shape? Let's do here. So, all right. So here we are right there, and we're putting things out. We're putting our ideas out, our thoughts out, and our actions. So we think and we act. And the truth of the matter is, and I'll hold on that, is that if I look upon this, first of all, as moving, so these ideas, these energies go out into the world, into the universe, but ultimately they come back to us in the form of experiences, of more experiences, okay? Because we're doing this all experientially anyway. But while we are here, I'm talking about while we're on the planet, this is what happens. However, but it's never like this. I want to, instead of just looking at it this way, we're going to put some more flavor to it, because this red here is going to represent what I consider what's negative. And then the green here, we'll look at what's positive. And the thing about that even is that no one is either all negative or all positive, but oftentimes this is what we see us at. We put a whole bunch of negative out, just a little bit of positive out. And I can say negative, you can talk in terms of chaotic, you can say destructive, and the positive, you can say harmonious, okay, joyful. The things that people are pushing and making and wanting folks to believe with all their heart, that they are trying to convince people that something that they are pushing is harmful, and they want to give evidence. Oftentimes, they have purchased the evidence. They've paid for the evidence with what? Something called money. And so here you got these imprints. The public is getting these major imprints that are negative, disruptive, harmful. They don't put that much in the way of positive out, of harmonious. But it doesn't mean that the harmonious is any more difficult to achieve than the destructive. In fact, I would even say the opposite is true. They have to put a whole bunch of effort out to actually cause and bring these destructive things into place, because it's such a low energy unto itself. It's coming from a weaker place, first of all. You know, the world could have been destroyed many times over if it was simply left to these people who are pushing these ideas. It's because people are of a consciousness, of a greater consciousness than even appears. But the consciousness is something inside. It's an internal thing, and they can't measure that in spite of their interest in doing so. Let's see, what else did I do? See, I was working. Oh, we're going to get to that. All right. So what I wanted to get to was to talk about what your options are. And this has been triggered so much by Co-op Crowd. Co-op Crowd actually is an option more today. When I started looking at the FTX situation, this push for regulation, you talk about FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt type of situation. This is an even greater time for a Co-op Crowd to join it, because the thing that has been triggered by all of this with me is that I wrote this article. I wrote it after finishing and posting a video recently, and the article, I put a title up, and the title of it was "Love is the Answer That Asks for Us." And when I say that, I'm not saying it's asking on our behalf. It's not asking on our behalf at all. It is asking for our involvement. It is asking for our igniting, or the ignition of our own love. It's asking for us to love, to do it, okay? To share it, to trust it, to rely on it. Love is the answer that is asking for us to bring it into play. And what was fascinating is that I started realizing that, and it was in this video here, the value of love. In this video, this is still several days out, and somewhere here, I got a screen here. If I refresh this screen, even right now, it shows here only 9 people have watched this particular video. If I am to believe YouTube's numbers, only 9 people have shown an interest. So either they haven't seen it, because I have some stuff in there that's actually just fun. It is a fun video to watch, and it triggers thinking. And my first premise is that money does not make the world go round. Love is what makes the world go round. Okay? So that video I published, like I said, it's less than a week ago, but still 9 views. This has been either under wraps or the numbers themselves, but it just doesn't track, okay? Just saying. And there's a reason why, too. This statement, love is the answer that asks for us, for me was profound. It is profound. And it's basically meaning it's the answer, because I personally can look at virtually any situation that we are dealing with, and you can see how bringing love into this particular situation would actually improve it. I can't fathom, I can't imagine any situation that would actually be worsened by bringing love in. And that includes business, that includes government, that includes charity. Now, you presume that charity, love is there, yeah? However, again, we have the lack of reciprocity. When people are doing something for the love of money, or for whether they love it or not, maybe they say there's no love involved with money, it's just for money, okay? Then the love part of it is broken. It's not a complete circuit. People may give in love, but if the receiver or the taker is simply seeking the money and someone is giving with love, then it's going to be an uneven exchange, and the love, the kindness, the in-kindness is not going to return. It's going to be delayed, postponed, whatever you want to say, for the giver. And especially when you start looking at the presumption of obligation, that you're obligated to be doing this or that or the other to someone who is seeking money, and they're not really doing it for the love of you, of humanity, there's a whole bunch of things being pushed and presented under the presumption or seeming that is for our best interest, the world's best interest. But first of all, they're not. They are certainly subject to some conversation. And typically there's been no conversation. I can think of one guy, what's his name, Klaus Schwab, and of the World Economic Forum. He's written this book, and they're talking about how by so-and-so time, no one will own anything and they'll be happy for it. That's really? That's his vision. And perhaps in some reality or unreality somewhere, maybe it'll happen. But that don't have to apply to you or to me. I don't have to really give a care what his opinion is. What's important is mine, how I feel about myself. And oftentimes we have to overcome the habits that we adopted in our formative years and that have been passed on by people who cared for us or we depended on, okay? Because some people who cared for us were pretty themselves unloving. And so they end up passing on those unloving behaviors and attitudes. And we, not understanding, people have just embraced, well, that's how I am. Well, how's that working for you is the question. Are you happy with how you are? Are you happy with how you see today? Are you happy with the tomorrow that you see for yourself? And if not, what do you do about it? Well, all of this for me has been triggered by Co-op Crowd. And it's been triggered because of what can be done. The banks are an issue. The exchanges are an issue. All these things have been set up that, well, some they want you to still stay where you are or interact with them. The others, they want you they want to establish that there's a need for some group to come up and oversee them and regulate them. And their habits, their patterns as far as regulation has been, again, adversarial and antagonistic. That's the first thing. There's no place for antagonism and adversariness in this place, and it needs to go away. Now, unless enough people know this, unless people start to respect, there's a right, still to privacy. Privacy, we didn't give up our right to privacy. There are people who want to know everything you're doing, and they're doing everything they can to kind of figure you out and whatever this is and that for different reasons. It's not all nefarious, okay? But it's still intrusive. Who hasn't received these text messages now? Hi, you can lose 30 pounds in 3 days. They're selling your information off. It's what these folks have been doing and intruding more and more on your privacy. Ultimately, your privacy is your privacy, and your no has always meant no, as long as you mean it. And we have been taught, we've been encouraged to believe that, well, no is only matters if they approve the no that you're saying no to. Okay? And that doesn't apply, all right? One of the big things that has made that possible is the degree to which people have become accustomed to putting out and having what they call delayed, it's not gratification, it's delayed return of value, okay? You go to a company, a job, and you are getting, you're putting out a week, 2 weeks before you actually get paid. And I remember years and years ago, I worked for a company that I got paid only once a month. So I had to work an entire month before my first check came. And it's what you did. All of that is changing. And the thing that is changed so significantly with co-op crowd is this. It is something else that we have overlooked. We have, not that we've dismissed, we've just overlooked. Because when you start looking at value as something that is moving like a stream or like a river or like a waterfall, you start seeing it, you just start seeing it differently because there is a flow. And what we tend to think of in lumps, when in fact our need for funds is a moving one. It's one that is continuing, this ongoing. And I don't know why, I'm just going to give just a little different. I've got utilities that, now sign up for automatic pay, and I've given them access to a bank account, and they did their money all the time. So they're getting their flow, okay? You got these others, subscriptions and stuff like that. It just comes out. Also, you have this much money, and also, you don't have this much money. It's a little, thank goodness you got it, okay? Well, these folks are taking care of theirs. They're establishing their circuit of return so that they get theirs, okay? Yet we don't create that for ourselves. That is something that is basically what allows for 1.2% of the population to actually be receiving 221 trillion in value. Now, where's the opportunity here? How can that be changed? As opposed to lamenting of what they are doing to us, the question becomes, what are you doing for yourself? And so, because I also notice the lack of love, the absence of love in many of our actions. Over the last, it's been years and years, but the last 2 years in particular, you start thinking in terms of how divided people have become, how adversarial, how antagonistic people have become to each other. And when you're in that position, there's no joy there. There's no love there. Joy and love, they're best friends, okay? And so, you can hear people say the sorriest things to each other. They're judging each other. They're ridiculing. And of course, they're doing it anonymously. They're doing it behind some pseudonym. They're doing it behind something called an avatar where they look like a cartoon character. They're acting as well. And they're also hurting. They're also needing the very thing that they're not giving to someone else. And so, thing that continued to excite me about Co-op Crowd is that it pays, it allows a person to create something, and allows them to create a stream of income. And it does it by 3 steps. The first part is just get some funds, $100 or $400 in USDT, USDC. Find a stable coin, but find one of those and deposit it into the system. The system will connect you to the person that invited you. And you do that when you join. You either put that information in, or the information will be put in with a link that's in there. It already is set up. When you open your account, you'll be invited to activate, and the activation is basically funding. Put some funds in. Now, what I consider different about this is it's a certain amount of value. It's $100 worth in value, is $400 in value. But what is it really? It is some love. It is a seed of love. It is a loving gesture. 10 people will receive from this output, okay, that you do. And this is also, it's a commitment that you make, because every 28 days, the system moves funds to its members. Now, so here's the deal. You are, and see, these things are need to be saying right from the start. So we're saying this now. Every 28 days from the anniversary of your moving or someone connecting with you, the person that invited you plus 9 others are going to receive. You're going to be giving to that group, up to 10 people. Not 11, not 12, just 10 are going to receive from your donation, from your deposit, from your gesture, your loving gesture, because that's what it is. You're not judging who they are. You're not judging what they are. You're not judging their political this. You're nothing. You're just putting it in. Okay? Just like the sun. Sun shines on it all, on everyone. Your limit is just 10. Okay? But you do it with 1 deposit. Now, you're going to do this every month. Except, yes, you will, but on the other hand, you are also receiving these tokens, which you will invite 3 people to do the same thing. These are gestures of love in the truest sense of the term. It is done positively. It's done with positive intention. And even if you had $10 million, it's not necessary. You see, in the case of everything else, you need to put more funds in to keep it going. You need to delay your use and the availability of the funds you put in so that you can work over time, or that the system can work over time. If it's made well enough, if it's sustainable enough that it's around, then you still need to put more and more in. You still need to not use more than use. Okay? That's just a fact. And if it hangs around long enough, and if enough people get into it and bring more capital, because it's still a closed system. I had to stop for a moment as I was editing the video, because it's not a closed system. There is no closed system. Your involvement, you are necessary. The system must be open because it has to take input. To be closed, it would exist on its own without any requirement. And in truth, the only closed system that exists is you. You are the one that give closure to everything else. You're the one that gives longevity to everything else. You're the one that takes that longevity away by simply either directing your attention, your energy, your love someplace else, or either depleting your own bag, so to speak, your own supply. It's one or the other, and then you're just not here. You can't do it. So I'll continue now, and the context of what I meant, I think, will come out. But the importance of all of this is that you and I, first of all, are what makes systems viable. And in order for them to be viable, we also need to do the closing in the sense of making certain we have an adequate, sufficient return of flow back to us. That is really the point. Its longevity is based on holding its value as well as more people putting in. Every system is that way. There are no exceptions to that. Not a bad thing. The one exception, at least certainly with some distinctions, is co-op crowd. It does not require you to be putting more and more in for it to stay, you to do it. If you do this thing, and that basically is this: you invite 3 people who see the same things, who have the same motivation, and they also have a need, because what are you doing? You are literally creating a circuit of return. So you're putting in an amount, $100 to $400, and with that you're going to get these tokens. And what are you building? You're going to be building a system that will have you as its center of donation, of receipt of love, okay? Because let's say, again, everyone, this is love. This is like the grit that will build and result in the formation of a pearl. It starts with just a little piece of grit or something, and then the forces start to work on it. Well, you're going to do the same thing. And so you're going to have your 3. You're going to invite them. They are going to get their 3 tokens, and they're going to invite 3 more, each of them. And when you have your 3 are active, and the 3 that your 3 invited are also active, you now have enough. You will have already received enough that you pay nothing out of your pocket anymore. So the monthly, every 28 day is taken care of. All the people beyond you, they start receiving, and you have enough that you don't have to come out of pocket anymore. But while that occurs, now those 9 are sending out 3s, and that gets 27. Then that 27 is putting out 3s, and that now is 81, and it starts to grow. It's 243, and then 729, and then 2187, then 6561, then 19,683, and then 59,049 people just on your 10th level, 10th generation. So you give to 10 people, so that 10 generations, a total of 88,572 people give to you. That is what Co-op Crowd does. Not only do they give to you, they give to you every 28 days. Nothing like it. By each of us turning to each other in cooperation, we change our own life. By each of us pushing through our own fears, our own prejudices to the extent that we have them, our own attitudes about who would like us and not like us, and all the other negative self-talk that we tend to engage and, I'll say, indiscriminately believe in. Setting all that stuff aside, you start to actually see the return of your value in kind, in the way and in the tent that you put it out, in the manner that you put it out. And in this way, it's not limited by geography. This system exists today, it works, and it's new. Apparently at this point in time, less than 150,000 people on the entire planet are in it. It's brand new. You talk about earliness, this is early. And yet, each can change their life, because the group that are paying, that are sending to me, are different from the group that'll send to anyone else. No two will be the same. You start thinking about the life that you want to live, and you start having the resources to implement much of this on your own. And it's not simply on your own, it's in concert with others. And here's the deal. The Co-op Crowd, your Co-op Crowd account has, this is again part of the relevance of the day and time, your Co-op Crowd account has within it a custodial wallet. In the standard exchange situation, you're putting funds in, you're putting your funds in, and of course you may be trading, you may be doing whatever you're doing, but they've got it. And your getting it out is still subject to whatever rules they've set up. Co-op Crowd, and in Co-op Crowd, it is a custodial wallet. So if you go down here, there it is there, the Co-op wallet. First of all, and I'm looking at, there's a Co-op NFT. So there's an NFT associated with this. I haven't minted mine yet, but that basically establishes this as yours. It's unique, and that's a step. You know, one thing O'Leary was talking about is that Web 3 needs to solve a lot of these things. This is a Web 3 custodial wallet. There is a place to add funds. There's a place to withdraw funds. I'll look down here on the transactions, and I will show you. Ooh, look at there. I've actually received some income because there's more. It's more in here than was here a little while ago. The last time I checked, and that's cool. That is it's really kind of cool to see. All right, I have not gotten the 3 and the 3 all together. Okay, and that's part of my process. So I consider myself a practitioner because I don't have it worked out. It's not full yet. I'll become a real ambassador when all my 3 have their 3. I'm coining new terms for all this too. I'm a wealth practitioner because I'm practicing right now. I'm learning how to do this and create it. But in here, you can add funds, you can withdraw funds. Whatever, if I wanted to take all of this out or a small amount or whatever, it's all available. There are no restrictions whatsoever. If this was $197,000, I would keep enough in there for the regular 28-day thing. The rest of it comes out. And it comes out either as a stable coin, it can come out as Ethereum, it can come out even as Solana. This is a Solana, it's an Ethereum wallet, it's also a Solana wallet. So it handles 2 blockchains, and you can do member-to-member transfers of value here. You can do member-to-member assignment of tokens. You can also donate to specific campaigns. If I say I wanted to do some things, you can do all this within Co-op Crowd with other Co-op Crowd members. This is unlike anything else. And it actually allows each of us to begin to establish that level of trust within ourselves, that each of us to receive in kind the love that we put out. That's really important. It's actually priceless. Your love is priceless. And the fact it's being sold off, it's being misused for, it's not even for a fraction of its value, because we are in a society that is convinced of entropy, of destruction, of lack, of decay, when in fact there are many, many ways that we can actually turn all of this around. Yet it's going to need to come from people who have enough to live the life that they want. I'll tell you, when you've got enough to handle any financial situation on your own, there are a lot of stresses that start to go away. I'm telling you, there's nothing that some love can't change for the better. And it's about time we start to actually, instead of asking for love and seeking it and looking for it, if you're looking for something because you think you don't have it, then you don't know you. You don't know yourself. That's why I coined the term the self-knower and self-knowledge, because it's not a bad thing to know yourself, to get an idea of what you are and who you are. You're not your body. You don't die. You know, these things will go at some point in time, but they are not you. All of this activity that we're doing based on the idea of some kind of control. Now the thoughts are influential. If you don't think words are powerful, just think about the things that you think are real today when you haven't seen any real evidence of it being true. But you're going around doing this, that, and the other. We're scowling at each other. We're doing all this kind of stuff. For what? So a few people can actually make a profit and get their jollies off of, the word democracy to me, it's turning out to be, it's like a demockery. Humanity is being mocked, is what they are. And you have the power to change, especially as you start to love actively, consciously. You cannot, I gotta check my co-op 250 balance. We gotta get, I got 4 days going. See, now, if I'm not able to get a little extra funds in here, I have to come out of pocket, okay, which I'll do. But I am going to stick with this. I am sticking with this because this is worth it and because I'm worth it. So I invite you, if you have questions, you can contact me at adam@selfknowledgeist.com. I have some other thoughts and some ways about going about doing this and also giving support. But to me, this is an act of love. And one of the things I will suggest, since I have talked this long, and it gets back to that last thing that you saw over here. There is a guy that about 100 years ago, oops, let me do this. About 100 years ago, there's a fellow by the name of Émile Couillet. Émile Couillet was French, doctor, pharmacist, something. And he had an extraordinary appreciation for the nature of consciousness. He helped not million, I don't know if it was millions, thousands, hundreds of thousands. I thought it would be useful to cover something more specific about Émile Couillet. So I found an article here on, what is this, CBT, Cognitive Behavior Therapy.com. Just random, I just picked it up, I just found it, looked for it, but they talk about the Émile Couillet method and 4 unusual suggestions. And I think there's something to comment on, but it's good to know about this. Let's talk, first of all, known as the creator of positive thinking. First of all, he's not the creator of positive thinking. It is really interesting. People think that thinking positive is something that's novel. It's going to seem that way, though. Émile Couillet was inspired by many therapy methods, including cognitive behavior therapy. Oh, there's a CBT, which these people are about. Okay, that's cool. With this Couillet method, he developed. In this article, we will examine the basic principles and historical process of this method. At the same time, the Émile Couillet method has come under many criticisms. Interesting, and we'll talk about that. We will look at these criticisms together, okay? You can see here he had a book called Autosuggestion. That is really kind of the point. Autosuggestion, self-suggestion. Suggestion that you do on yourself to yourself. That's what that basically means. Émile Couillet developed the method of self-suggestion. I hadn't even noticed it down there. Also known as the Couillet method. The Couillet method inspired so many people, especially in America and the UK. It also inspired many psychologists and psychiatrists, but it received criticism later on. I don't know who wrote this, later in the future. Émile Couillet is one of the creators of positive thinking. It is based on positive thinking where you focus on thoughts or affirmations that are likely to be helpful to you personally, as opposed to that which might be harmful, and focusing on that. And that's what the critics could do. You're supposed to focus on the things that you don't want, right? So here's the deal. Let's see here. One example would be, every day, in every way, I'm getting better and better. That is the fundamental Couillet, okay? The technique aims at treating your subconscious mind through the repetition of this sentence. It's really interesting to read this because it's really the exercise of one's own volition, choice, exercise of their will, the conscious exercise of it, and directing of oneself in a direction of their desire as opposed to just flapping around in the winds of opinion, so to speak. The Coulier method has two basic theoretical principles. They have to put the word theoretical in there to take it out of the realm of actuality and in the realm of maybe. Okay? Number one is all suggestion is autosuggestion. All suggestion is suggestion. Autosuggestion is one that you originate yourself. Anything else is suggestion that someone else suggested to you. It wasn't yours, but it's up to you to decide if you embrace it or bend to it. Okay? Number two, internal conflict occurs between the will and the imagination, but the imagination is always stronger. Well, I agree with that. So concentrate, number one, concentrate in attention. Conscious autosuggestion must repeat with mental focus and with certainty and faith. Now, this man had results, fantastic results for people who embraced the idea that he suggested. He was French, but the dialect and anything didn't matter. The idea got across, and it worked for people. Two, auxiliary emotion law. When, for one reason or another, an idea is enveloped in a powerful emotion, that is more likely that this idea will be suggestively realized. So, someone by the name of Bowden in 1920. Negative ideas stick in our minds because of the powerful emotions attached to them, especially the emotion of fear. I would even also suggest it's the emotion of, oh darn, there's a word I'm looking for. It's that it is incongruity. It's the incongruity of the idea. They say negative ideas. Negative ideas are incongruous. They have some built-in, you could say, flaws to them that people know, whether they hear it, whether they intellectually can articulate their resistance to it or not, they still feel it because it's incongruous, it's discontiguous, so to speak. The law of reverse effect. This is Baudin 2, Baudouin. When an idea imposes itself on the mind to such an extent as to give rise to a suggestion, all the conscious efforts which the subject makes to counteract this suggestion are not merely without the desired effect, but they can run counter to the subject's conscious wishes and tend to intensify the suggestion. This is actually embodied in all of modern medicine, I'll say. Someone gets this thing called a growth, whatever that you want to call that growth, and then people start saying, well, the growth is the problem. We got to get rid of that. And then and it's growing and it's growing. And then all this effort to either resist the growth, to get rid of it, it basically exacerbates the emotional state that the person is in, and it basically feeds the actual thing that you're trying to get rid of. And it feeds the conditions because the consciousness itself has not really changed. Number 4 is the law of subconscious teleology. And when the end has been suggested, the subconscious finds means to its realization. This is also Baudouin. This is really, really important because this applies without judgment as to the niceness or the unniceness of the quote-unquote or anticipated or thought of or imagined end. And so when you have people suggesting, I'm not saying auto-suggesting, but suggesting to you that this particular factor is an issue and it is all the thing, you got to look up, you got to stop everything you're doing and pay attention to this because it's this, that, and the other. That's all this is going on. And then they're inviting you to envision all of this stuff. That's the end, and that's being suggested to the subconscious. It finds means for its realization. Someone actually knows this stuff. Someone is putting these ideas out and creating these scenarios for people so that they can, because they don't know themselves, focus and even obsess on those things and not on the things that are positive. The fact that some critics could sit back, or let's say it puts back, the fact that some people could sit back and be critical of Couillet's methods, given the results that he got, and they became critical after they seeing the success. And what does that mean? People are literally attempting to pull the minds, to draw the minds of the public or the people that were interested in that method away from their sense of power, because this is what would happen. People were drawing their attention to this particular area. They were getting well. Their experience was improving. So what? A critic comes up and says, oh, well, let me dismiss this stuff. This is no big deal, and blah, 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 blah. Because what? I am the expert. I am this. This person doesn't know, or these people don't know. The folks that were doing it don't even care about it. They simply want to they want to sully the idea. They want to sully the sense of it. They want to throw some confusion in. And people who somehow revere these quote-unquote critics or these experts who themselves did not have any methods that were providing this kind of relief, there you go. This is why it's important to know yourself, know who you are. It's also important in regard, for example, with Co-op Crowd. They talk about having your 84, and they use it in a particular way. However, this gets down to the law of subconscious teleology. When the end has been suggested, the subconscious finds means for its realization. You need to have your end in your own mind, in your own heart, in your own emotions, and unshakable, because this is your homing signal for the results of what you're seeking. Let me leave you with that thought and get back to the video itself. This was Couillet's every day, in every way, I'm getting better and better. And thousands upon thousands of people got better. And they got better from conditions that they had suffered from for quite a long time. And so he's not alone. Couillet's not alone. Another one was Jose Silva, who developed what's called Silva mind control. And part of Silva's method included some of what was created or started by Couillet. Silva just added that. Every day in every way, I'm getting better, better, and better. Okay, as part of his process, because his process included relaxation, quieting one's mind. He had steps for count down from 100 down to 1, and then 50 down to 1, until you got to a place where you could just in a matter of minutes just be relaxed. But people have to practice that procedure. Well, I began doing that, and however, there is a desire to improve. When you find something, you see, or you have an insight on how you can make something better or make it even more relevant or whatever, then the inclination is to do that. And so what you see here is where my desire to improve actually came. And so I say this every day. I say it before I go to sleep at night, and I say it not before I wake up, but before I get up. Because there's a certain time as your consciousness is moving to or through different states where everything is in sync. And it's when things are in sync, when both hemispheres are in sync and in resonance, that's when the real power. Neville Goddard, another one, who said the same type of things, especially about those periods just before you go off to sleep. Picture things the way you want. And I've added, here's the other thing, and I'll switch over to this one here. So the other thing I do is I take my middle and finger and thumbs on both hands. So while my eyes are closed, I do this with my hands, and then I say this, and I'm saying this almost in a drone. Well, maybe not almost in a drone, but I'm saying this. Today in every way, I am loving bigger and better. Today in every way, I'm loving bigger and better. Today in every way, I'm loving bigger and better. Today in every way, I'm loving bigger and better. Today in every way, I'm loving bigger and better. Today in every way, I'm loving bigger and better. Now, my volume is much lower than this. I'm saying this for easy hearing, but I'm not speaking with that amount of volume or that even that amount of energy. This is between my consciousness and me, my higher self, my God, all of those things is a point of connection. Couillet suggested 20 times. Now you can do more, and the point basically is you do it with some feeling. Today in every way, I am loving bigger and better. Today in every way, I'm loving bigger and better. Today in every way, I'm loving bigger and better. Today in every way, I'm loving bigger and better. I notice when I say these words, I feel energy coming into my body. I feel energized. It's palpable. And it's interesting, I did it this morning. We had 2 kittens. But no, they're not kittens anymore, they're cats. They're about a year old. But have the door closed before I get up and come out. But as soon as I did all this stuff, and then I got up and I came out, and one of them runs in, and it's like they just could tell something. Because cats are able to see and resonate with energy, maybe much more than we appreciate. But I wanted to share this too. If you end up seeing this, and to this amount, do this. Whether you join Co-op Crowd or not, or anything else you do, this is where your power starts. Because this is called a decree. You are decreeing. And today in every way, I'm loving bigger and better. And so, I'm going to do this as I did with the other. Today in every way, I'm loving bigger and better. Today in every way, I'm loving bigger and better. Today in every way, I'm loving bigger and better. Today in every way, I'm loving bigger and better. Today in every way, I'm loving bigger and better. Today in every way, I'm loving bigger and better. Today in every way, I'm loving bigger and better. Today in every way, I'm loving bigger and better. I started doing that, and I started feeling it even now. So this is something that anyone can do, everyone can do who chooses, because doing something out of love is never done unconsciously. See, when you're doing it for money, you don't have a problem with someone else, quote unquote, losing so that you win. That doesn't work for me. I feel much better when someone who is in the habit of losing begins to win, and they're happy about it. But they don't make them happy when they win at someone else's expense. There is costs for everything, and there are, like I said, there are in-kind returns that we as a society have become insensitive to the fact that we are not getting it. We are letting people lead us, or I say mislead us, into the most egregious of activities for which there's no beneficial return even for them. Because if they think they're benefiting by making money, they are mistaken. And if you think you are benefiting, or even they are, because of the money that they have gained, you're mistaken too. If we have exchanged love for money, then we're the loser in that respect. We've misused that energy. If there's joy present and it's genuine and it's not at the expense of someone else's joy, you got a shot of something being real, because it can be infectious in a good way. People talk about contagion, but it generally is always put out in a negative context. There's no one and not the other. We want our crypto value, or the stock of the things that we love. They want their Tesla stock, they want their whatever stock to always be rising and to be valuable, or more valuable, because we think the value is in the thing. And that was my point from my other video, is that you're the value, you're the creator of the value, and therefore we need to be fountains, and we also need to be and put ourselves in a position to receive what we have put out. Now, you're not necessarily going to receive from someone or some organization that's simply just been using you for all this time, and it's not you personally. Don't take it personally. It's not personal. These people have set up corporations, and it's nothing to do with being personal. In this particular case, it's a way that you can create, because it's not going to happen for you. You put the funds in, Co-op Crowd, you get the tokens, you invite 3 people who are going to and who are committed to doing the same thing. And then when they have their 3 active as well, it means you now have 12 people around you. You now have a regular income coming in every 28 days that covers your $100 or $400, first of all. However, you also have 27, then 81, then etc., as those people continue to do on their journey what you have just started. You will continue to benefit up to 10 generations from you. That is unprecedented, and it provides a great amount of indifference to inflation, indifference to what the banks do or don't do. It's important for you to practice having your own value and taking care of it. The cool thing, because the income with Co-op Crowd is cyclical every 28 days, if someone drains your account, well, 28 days is there again. And it's not once every 28 days. It's 28 days from the anniversary of whenever that person joins. So you're likely going to be seeing funds coming in all the time. Nothing else does this. This is a system that I would have dreamed of some years ago, when the MLM type of organizations, I didn't really care about the products per se. I was wishing, just take the products out off of this. Here's a system. It's a pure system. Funds didn't have to be as much. None of those have to occur. And yet it's available, it's open to anyone. Anyone can muster that amount of funds to put into this and then do the steps. If you allow yourself to imagine and see what you can do in your life, you'll start to see how this can be used for people to change their own lives, but it also is changing their attitudes. There was an idea, maybe it was Buckminster Fuller, I don't know, I'll have to search that one out, where you don't sit back and, criticize or try to destroy an old system, when it's in a time of change. What you do basically is create one that's better that you'd rather go to. And that is how the shift occurs. It's not by wars, not by tug of wars and everything else. It's about a conscious choice to live a better life and to see a better way of doing things and to go to it. That's, quite frankly, the purpose of life, of living, because if we don't get that even in consciousness, when this passes and we haven't gotten that memo within ourselves and actually started focusing on the things we want in our life, then we'll find some other where, some other when to do this again until we do. So there's no better time than the present. No better place than here. That's just the way I see it. So, there I go again. We'll see how this works. I'll see how it sounded and everything else. If I feel good about it, it's off to you. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart. And as much as I keep thinking I want to do something short, ultimately it comes out as it comes out. And it is what it is. And with all that, peace. Be well. Till next time, I love you all.